All right, so let's jump back into our code where we left off, and we'll go back over here to the navigator panel. And again, always good to review these things. I'm pretty sure these will come up on the final. So again, we've got our navigator panel on the left side, we've got our inspector on the right side. When we're in the storyboard, we've got our interface builder here in the middle where we can lay things out. But let's jump back in over here in the navigator panel to the view controller section so that we can see our code that we were working on last time, where we were getting everything connected. And you can see in your code, hopefully you've got those dark circles on the lines in your code where we kind of used our control key and we held the control key down and we drug some of those elements over, like our answer my question button, and also our message labels and that label at the bottom. So we've got our message label function here as a result, and we also have our question button pressed function down here that are both connected, and we can tell they're connected because we see these dark circles on the lines. Or if you've got the dark background instead of white, then you'll see those white circles on those code number lines to let you know that. All right, where we left off right at the end of class, we added in this line 16. So we came back up here and we added a couple blank lines under this IB outlet variable up here for that message label, and we added in this comment. So if you missed that part, let's have you do that right now. And then we're putting in a comment to explain what we're doing in the code, all right? And it's always great to be really consistent about doing comments. Again, comments are good for us as we come back to our code later. So we've got some code in there to remind us what we did on Wednesday. And also as we come back to this in the future, next fall, you may want to pull this program back up out of the blue and show it to someone. And just to remind yourself, you'll have those comments. Also, comments are great for helping with debugging. If we're seeing that we've got an error, it helps to be able to scan through our program and find the section kind of outlined by the comments where it's related to maybe that problem that we're seeing, so that we don't have to look through our entire code. So we don't have much yet at this point in this program, but in some programs you may have hundreds of lines of code, and so the comments can really be helpful for debugging at that point. And also, comments are great when you're sharing your programs with someone else, whether that's a teammate or if you're turning in your code to someone like me. All right, so we're going to create our array right here, and let's put it on line 17 for me. I'm not sure what that line is for you, but hopefully it's something kind of similar to that. And here we're going to put in our array of our different answers that are going to be returned on this message label when someone asks a question and they come in and they press the answer my question button. This is what's going to show up for them. And if we remember right now, if we go ahead and build this and get our simulator going, based on the code that we have from last time, from our part 1, what's happening is we just see this opening slide here. Our question button is not doing anything yet because it is connected, but it doesn't have anything in this function. So we see our function, but there's nothing in between the curly braces here for this to do. So when we push the button, nothing's happening, but we do see that we don't have our label text showing up anymore down here at the bottom that says this is where your answer will be, because in our view to load function right here, we added in some code where we are clearing out our message label text. And so we're doing that by changing this to an empty string. So just 2 quotation marks removes any sort of text that was showing in that message label text property before. All right, so dot notation is helping us to get to the text property of that message label and resetting it from this is where your answer will appear to just an empty string, which then is blank, right? And then that's what's showing up for us in the simulator as we look at the simulator now, because once that view did load happens, it makes this text not there anymore. It's clearing it out for us by changing it to this empty string. Okay, so let's go back in and let's add some functionality now so that we can do something here when people are pressing our answer my question button and they'll get some answers from us. So what we want to do is we want to create a variable here. So we're going to define a variable called, again, let's just be really clear. These are going to be our messages, right? And so we're going to come in and we're going to set that equal to or assign it to an array over here on the side. And I'm just going to hit return there, which is going to add my second square bracket. So not the curly braces, but a square bracket. All right, and now what we've learned about arrays last week and the end of the week before was that we need to separate all of our items by commas. And as you can guess, this is going to be a string array because we're going to have answers to our questions. So these will probably be little phrases, right? So let's put a quotation mark in there, and then we're going to put our message in. Now, you may be wondering, where are you going to get these messages from? Well, if we look back in our Schoology course, right here we have all of our responses. So these are the responses that we're going to put in our array. And I'm going to share a little time-saving trick with you here. So you could type these, you could start typing, or you could come in here and you could highlight this. So with your finger on your trackpad or a mouse, come in and highlight this, and then Command C is going to copy that for you. So now that I have that copied, I'm coming back here to Xcode and I'm going to paste that into my text here. And I need a quotation mark behind that since it's a string, right? And so hopefully Xcode is adding that for you. All right, now to separate our elements, because we're going to have 20 of these, let's put a comma and let's go ahead and hit return. And we're going to put the next one on the next line just to make this easy for us to be able to read. And again, it's going to be a string, so let's start with a quotation mark. And then if you could just kind of overlap these windows a little bit, I'm going to pop back over here to Schoology to grab this next code, this next answer phrase, or again, you could type this out. It is decidedly so. So I'm going to highlight that, Command C to copy. I'm going to pop back over to Xcode, and I'm going to Command V to paste that in. It is decidedly so, and I'll put a comma after that. And again, I'm going to hit return just to keep making this easy for us to read. I'm going to start the next one with a quotation mark. And let's just keep doing that. All right. So we'll keep going back and forth between Schoology and Xcode. Our next one is without a doubt. Again, I'm highlighting, Command C, coming back to Xcode. I'm going to paste that in with Command V. Hopefully Xcode is adding your quotation mark for you. If for some reason it's not, make sure you're putting a quotation mark. Again, we need another comma and return for the next line. Another quotation mark. All right, so we've got our 20 different statements. Again, we've got 10 kind of yes type answers, 5 maybe check again sort of answers, and 5 no type answers for our Magic 8 Ball to respond to our yes and no questions. All right, let's clean up one thing here. Let's come down to line 37. We've got our closing bracket here all by itself. So since this is an array, let's go ahead and put our cursor in front of that and just delete it, those empty spaces, and move it back up here to line 36 so that it's at the end of our array and looks better. All right. So we've got our variable array here named messages, and it has our list of possible answers that we're going to respond back. Let's keep moving then, and again, make sure that you have moved your bracket from line 37 back up here behind line 36 so that it closes up our array and looks proper. We don't want to leave it sitting down here on line 37 all by itself. Next thing we're going to do is we're going to add some code that's going to choose one of these responses for a question that gets asked to the Magic 8 Ball. And the way that this happened with the original toy, right, is people kind of shook it a little bit and turned it over and got that random response. So we're going to do something similar to get a random response. So let's go down here to our question button pressed function, and let's add in some blank lines here. So after this opening curly brace, let's add in a couple blank lines in between there to give us some space to work in there. And here's where we're going to kind of create a constant that's going to keep track of what is that message that's being given every time that answer my question button is being pressed, and every time that this function then is running. All right, and we want that to be random, so we don't want these to necessarily show up in the order that they're in, because that'll be like 10 yes answers in a row, and then 5 kind of maybe or undecided, undetermined answers, and then 5 no type answers. So we definitely want this to be a random kind of answer. So let's go in and let's add a comment first of all to kind of keep track of what we're doing here. And here is where we're gonna say, let's say something like select random answer from array. Now, one thing that we didn't talk about as we were learning about arrays is arrays have some properties, and one of those is called random element. And what that property does is it can actually choose a random element. So unlike the dice roller where we needed to, in that app, create some code to generate a random number in between 1 to 6, here, instead of generating a random number between 1 and 20 to pick out which of these responses to give, we can tap into that property of the array to return one of these phrases as a random element to answer our question. So let's go in here to line 50 and let's write some code that will do this. So let's make ourselves a constant, and again, let's try to be really clear with our name of our constant. So we might call this selected message, something like that. So we're selecting one of these messages. So we're going to use the equal sign to assign a value to this new constant called selected message. And to do that, we are going to type messages. And then we're going to use the dot notation, so a period. And here's where we're going to use that random property. And once you start typing random, you should see random element pop up. So go ahead and hit return. And this is going to look through these messages, and it is going to tap into that random element property of this array to select one of those for us and then set that equal to or assign that to our constant called selected messages. All right. And I might even just in my comment add a little bit more text here using random elements of array to remind myself, why am I not creating a random number or something like that? All right. Then let's add another blank line here. Let's add a comment in here. So again, make it easy for us to read this, put in some blank lines to make that a little clearer with some separation there. Again, we're going to put in 2 backslashes for our comment, and here we are going to replace our message label text with the random element text. And I will spell label correctly there. All right. And so to do this, we're going to call that variable message label. And we want to tap into the text property of that. So again, let's use our dot notation. So type a period, and then we'll see our options pop up for what we can do with message label. So text is what we want. So go ahead and hit return. So we're going to set that message label text equal to our selected message. That is going to be chosen randomly from our array as this constant, right? So we're setting that text that's going to appear in that box at the bottom of our screen equal to this constant that is grabbing one of these phrases from our array up here by using the random element property of arrays. All right, I hope that's clear to everyone how that's happening and that we didn't need to do that manually since it's a function of arrays. All right, well, let's take a look and see what's happening now. So let's go ahead and stop our simulator if you had that going, and let's run and build our app. And I'm going to tap on my answer my question button, and there's my random response. So as a user, I would ask a question, right? That's the way the toy worked. So I need to ask a yes or no question. Will the summer be hot? Most likely. Yeah, probably. Right? Summer temps. All right, let's do one more question here. And again, we're focusing on yes or no questions. Will I have something good for lunch today? And I'll click my answer my question button. It is certain. All right, it must definitely know what's in my lunch bag for today. Awesome. So hopefully we're seeing different responses as you continue to click on answer my question. Hopefully you're noticing, again, we do have 10 positive or yes-like answers, so you may see a few of those in a row, but hopefully you're seeing some mix of answers happening. So kind of a positive, negative, negative, positive, negative. So hopefully they're kind of randomly coming up for you. And also notice that I can keep clicking on this. I'm not sure how many times I've clicked it so far, but we don't have like a limit. So I think I've now clicked it more than 20 times. So you'll notice that it's still going, it's still randomly picking responses. I've seen some of these come up more than once, again, because it's randomly picking them. So it's not necessarily going through all of them before repeating one. So anyone could keep going with this app all day long if they want, right? Because it's just that much fun. Okay, cool. Hopefully everybody's app is working and that you don't have any error messages showing up in your code. Now let's go back and let's fix one more thing here. I'm going to bring my simulator back. This is really kind of hard on the eyes here to have kind of this blue text on this bright red background. So let's go back in and let's fix this up. And I know on Wednesday, our button did not want to let us customize it. So I'm going to stop my simulator here. Let's go back over to the navigator panel. Let's go back to the main storyboard and let's take a look at adjusting this again. So go ahead and click on your answer button here, the answer my question button. And now over here in our inspector panel on the attributes inspector with the 3 sliders, we can see we have our text up here at the top. And this was not allowing us to edit this the other day. So let's change this. Wouldn't let us make this text larger, right? Or to make it bold that was sticking here. So let's come in here, and this button already has some settings on it. So that's why it's not allowing us to change that. Even though we chose a plain kind of button, it actually has some custom settings built in. So let's change this custom setting to system. All right, now we should be able to change regular to bold, and we should be able to bump up our size of our text here. So let's make that really big and easy to see and use. Maybe something like 24-point font should be easy. All right. Now let's deal with that blue text. And again, you might have a different color button, so this blue text might not be an issue for you. I'm going to go ahead and click done here. And I'm going to scroll down further in the inspector panel over here. Here's my background again. So if you wanted to have a different color button than that red, you could certainly change that to another color there, and then blue won't be a problem for you. I kind of like the red. You can choose whatever color you like, but blue text on a red button creates kind of a weird effect on your eyes. So I'm going to change this from blue to being white, and I'm just going to try some of these different whites. That actually looks pretty good to me, so I'll go with that white. Sometimes these whites are kind of an off-white or an eggshell white, or sometimes like a gray color that looks sort of white. So you can try some of these out and see what looks good, but you want your text to stand out on that background. All right. So I think that white text looks a lot easier to see. And again, I'm just changing that here in the tint underneath the background color. Okay, now when I build and run my app, and it opens up the simulator, I will now see I've got some white text on that red button. Much easier to read than it was before. Okay, could we change our background as well? We sure can. So instead of having that white background, you can click here on just the background of the device. So just make sure you don't have anything else selected, because remember, the attributes panel, the inspector panel over here, is sensitive to what you've selected. So make sure you've clicked in an empty space on the device, and at that point then you can change the background to be something else if you want a different color background. Now depending on the image that you chose, some of those images had a white background, so I don't know if I necessarily like the way this looks now. So I'm just going to do Command Z to undo that, or I could come back here to the background color again and put it back as white, because the image that I chose has that white border, and I kind of like it when it's not looking like it has a big white square on a gray background. All right, I'll let you adjust what you want to adjust there yourself. But basically at this point, we have a working app. And again, you can run and build that. You're going to get this awesome little Magic 8-Ball app that you can show to other people today. Again, have them ask their yes and no answer before clicking on the button, so that they don't see any text down there before that. And then it will work. All right. Awesome. Okay, other things that we can do. We can, of course, if I look at my simulator there again, we can we can create an app icon for this app. So just as we've done before, when you click on the home button here, instead of seeing this little kind of generic Magic 8-Ball app icon out here, let's make a real icon so that on your app home screen here, you're actually seeing a little app icon there. Just like if you remember when we had our dice roller app, we created a little app for that, right? That would then bring up that app for us. So we're going to do the same thing here, where instead of having just our little plain background, we're gonna bring up an app icon for this app. And if you didn't know, if you're holding down on your trackpad, you can actually scroll back and forth between the screens in the simulator just like you can on your iPad or on an iPhone. So let's replace this Magic 8-Ball app icon here, just the generic one, with one that you're going to create. And again, in Xcode, to remind ourselves how we do that, we go back over here to the navigation panel, and we are going to go here to the assets catalog. Right now we see our image that we brought in for our view, our screen and our app, but we've also got this template here for an app icon. And unlike the last app we created where we were using an old template that had part of the app built for us, we're back on an Xcode 14 template, so you should just be seeing that 1024 pixel by 1024 pixel placeholder for your app. All right. Again, you can use different types of applications or resources to create app icons. We've got Keynote, and Keynote's a really quick and easy one to use. So we can use Keynote. We're going to use a custom slide size of 1024 by 1024. You can, again, create your own graphics in the Keynote Shapes library. Or if we scroll down to the bottom here, I did add those 8-ball images again, so you could choose one of these by clicking on them, downloading them, and then dragging that in. Again, you can look through those and see if you like them. You could make your own. You could use something from the Shapes library, and then you're going to export out your Keynote slide as a PNG image, which then you could drag into the assets catalog in the app icon area. All right, I'm just going to start up Keynote here quickly. You can choose any of these background templates. I'm going to go with white just to make it easy. You could choose a dark colored one if you want. Again, think about the best practices that we learned about app icons. So if it's too busy, remember it's going to be super small on the screen and things won't be easy to see. So keep that in mind. What you're going to create, although it looks big here in Keynote, is going to end up being pretty small. So if you have any text, make it really large on the slide because it will be super small in the icon. If you just want to delete all these text boxes, you can just drag across those with your trackpad there and then just hit delete to delete those. Remember that Shapes library is up here at the top, and I don't know that there are any pool balls in here or billiards balls. So I'm not sure that you could make use of these, but you could certainly just use like this basic circle, right? And then if you want to adjust that, maybe put some text on there, do something like that. Create your own 8-ball with maybe a couple circles, a black one and a white one, and then a number, all of that sort of stuff. Remember, we need this to be 1024 by 1024 pixels. So just click here on your background somewhere. And we're going to go over here to Document up here at the top in the toolbar. And for slide size, instead of being widescreen or standard, depending on what you chose, we're going to set a custom slide size. And here we're going to change the width to be 1024 pixels and the height to be the same. And then tap OK. And that's going to make this a square. All right. And then you can put your image in here. Again, you could download and drag in one of those images. Drag it up to fill up the slide. You can go here to the shapes library. You can find an image somewhere else. So I'll let you do all of that. Once you have your image created here, mine's still just a blank slide, but if this were done, I could go to File and I can go to Export to and Images. And here my option is PNG file. And I can export that out just by clicking on Next. And then it's going to save somewhere, maybe on my desktop, and then I'll be able to drag it back into Xcode, back in the Assets Catalog area under the App Icon section into this 1024 by 1024 pixel image placeholder here. And then the next time that you run and build your app, you should see that image icon. Again, sometimes Xcode can be a little fussy and you might have to build it a couple times to get it to show up, but it should show up by the second time at least. When you built it, usually it will show up by the first time